it is my pleasure to invite the following panelists on stage, starting with Her Excellency Sharon S. Garin, Secretary, Department of Energy, Republic of the Philippines. Next, we have His Excellency Sharif Al Olama, Undersecretary for Energy and Petroleum Affairs, United Arab Emirates. Then please help me welcome Ms. Lin Yang, Deputy Executive Secretary for Program, Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. And of course, Mr. Gonul, you'll be the moderator. Thank you.
Your Excellency. So you will need to bear with me a bit longer now with the moderator hat. I have a very distinguished panel with me, and we're going to discuss one of the most important dimensions of APRESA implementation that is related to infrastructure development, and specifically looking into the interconnectivity angle, given this strong momentum around APG development that we have been witnessing in the past period. And I already explained in APRESA, we have a specific focus on infrastructure at 3 levels. And we will have a conversation with my distinguished panel on different dimensions of improving, enhancing interconnectivity, looking onto the policy dimension, but also finance, etc. So without further delay, I would like to start with the first question, which is more on the how we can enable investments, how we can create a stronger framework, enabling framework that is conducive to investments for renewables, but also for interconnectivity. And my first question, in fact, it goes to all panelists, and that is about policy innovations and regulatory frameworks that are needed to mobilize investments in clean energy and regional interconnections process and facilitate cross-border energy trade. Let me first turn to Her Excellency Sharon Garin to have a perspective from Philippines.
Thank you. Good afternoon. In the Philippines, we had a resurgence, let's say, of investments in renewable when we opened it up to 100% foreign ownership. The market responded, and up to today, we are still refining our policies. We have to change our policies, renewable energy certificates, because now there's that concept of renewable energy certificates and carbon credits. We had to change our policies on batteries, on the pricing. I think governments have to be more responsive because the technology is faster than policies. So we need to address the needs of our investors, as long as you're transparent about the whole thing. Now, on the auction, for example, when we announce an auction, we get responses from our investors saying, oh, you should have more, 1,000 megawatts more for auction. The term should be this long, the price should be this. We listen to them and we respond. Sometimes we do, sometimes we do not. But as long as there is dialogue between the government and the private investors, I think the accountability, transparency will just come naturally with that. And that is why we have a good number of investors now in the Philippines for renewable energy.
Thank you very much. Now, let me turn to His Excellency Al Olama. And I would like to hear from you from the UAE side, our host country, that what's your perspective into policies, regulations, and enabling environment that will allow accelerating renewable investments, but also infrastructure development?
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll just take a little bit the discussion of context. I'll make reference to the quotes by His Excellency Dr. Tan, where he mentioned 2 things. Even though we have had commendable progress when it comes to renewable capacity being installed over the past year, we are still off track. And he also mentioned that there is no one nation can do this. And I want to emphasize on the fact that we are off track because there is a critical factor from COP28 that many governments are still not addressing, and that is energy efficiency. We had committed in COP28 that we would double energy efficiency from 2 to 4%. Today, as I understand it by IEA, we are barely doing just over 1%. And that is where a lot of the gap is being created. Of course, with the energy efficiency, you will result into having more efficient systems, so you will consume less power. You will have more power to provide for the growth and the economy that is anticipated to grow in the ASEAN region. I think the demand growth is anticipated to be up to 60% by the year 2040. And in this context, we have initiated the Global Energy Efficiency Alliance to work with a lot of countries and help on the efficiency front. Now, going back to interconnection, I think on interconnection projects, you really have three pillars that you have to focus on. One is you require a long-term policy stability. Number two, you require an open, competitive market. And three, you have to have a strong regional and global connectivity. In the UAE, we have been successful to attract more than 40 billion investment in clean energy projects. We have three of the biggest solar parks in the world at a very competitive price per kilowatt hour. And very recently, we have also announced of a 1 gigawatt base load where we are going to be installing 20 gigawatts of storage and 5 gigawatts of solar power. Of course, we haven't limited ourselves to our boundaries. We are also investing in many countries, over 40 countries, and we have done more than 50 gigawatts of capacity. To conclude, I think for innovative and regulatory frameworks to support investments in interconnections, you do require three enablers. One is a clear, long-term, stable market outlook and signals. Two, you do require regulatory and grid harmonization between bordering countries. And three, you really need to de-risk the investment through innovative financing. That's where the private sector comes into effect.
Thank you very much. Let me turn to Ms. Lin Yang. As the UN body in charge of this particular region, Asia Pacific, obviously you're exposed to the developments in different territories within this area and with experience and observations in different countries. What is your view into the enabling environments for promoting renewables and interconnectivity within broader geography of Asia?
Thank you, Gurbuz, for this question. This is indeed a very big question. I don't know, I'm not sure if I have the answer. Yesterday in the ASEAN UN summit, on the margin of the ASEAN summit, our Secretary General sent a call for solutions, three calls: call for solutions for development, solutions for climate change, solutions for digitalization. So in my day and a half time in Singapore, I try to listen and engage different stakeholders. I would say that I'm not sure I have the solutions yet. I feel that it's more like a joint journey for us to explore together. But I can share a few observations so far I have. Number one, I think in the Minister Tan's opening remarks, he mentioned about the importance of regulatory and the policy framework, because that is about confidence, about the trust for the investors to come in. Second is about this connectivity issue. Is Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, the largest intergovernmental platform in this region. So if you look at our history, the connectivity is in our blood, in our DNA. Since our founding in 1947, so far we supported 3 key intergovernmental agreements, respectively on highway, Asia Highway, Asia Railway, and Asia Pacific Dry Ports. Those basically are the key pillars of the regional connectivity. So I do feel that we have a lot to learn from those, the process development of those intergovernmental agreements, how they come so far. The great part, I have to say that it's in a very complex area. No matter about the standards, about the planning, about the access to grids, and etc. It's a very complex, but once we get there, it's going to be very transformative. That is based on all the connectivity, agreements, projects we learn about. So I think it requires political commitment. It requires long-term vision. It requires strategic investment. And also, I think by coming to today, it also requires a very people-centered approach, which Minister Lahoud mentioned that. When we have those grids and we have those connectivities, we need to also to assess whether it brings socio-economic benefits, whether people, the vulnerable groups and the communities can benefit. So that is the connectivity side. The last but not least, I would see the capacity. I remember in 2023, when I worked in my previous role, I was in the drafting team of those 2023 SDG Progress Report, special edition, which served as an important input to the SDG Summit in New York. The number 1 key recommendation is to strengthen the capacity of public institutions. I believe that also applies to the energy and the grids connectivity area of work. So that comes to the capacity of regulators. I shared yesterday with the ESCAP support, and by working together with the ASEAN countries and also ACE, we soft launched this year the School of Regulations, so as to strengthen the capacity of regulators from the region and facilitate peer learning. I hope that by this joint efforts, we can identify, the gaps, and take a more active and programmatic approach to really achieve some concrete results. In the very end, I would like to echo DG Francesca mentioned, the acceleration, the sense of urgency, accelerate the partnership, accelerate the action. I think that is what we need. It's in a very unprecedented time.
Thank you very much. Ms. Garin, Ms. Olama mentioned about de-risking investments, one of the key actions that needs to be taken. Obviously, governments has a key role in that, both de-risking investments, but also developing public-private partnerships and using the scarce public funds in wisest way to be able to promote investments. What's your view from the Philippines angle on this, and how do you support private investments, de-risking projects, and collaboration with the private sector?
The Philippine energy market is private-driven. It's an unregulated industry. We do not regulate generation, for example. But we do issue policies that will allow them to invest in the Philippines. Like with their auctions, they have an assured cost recovery period and also the rates. We adjust our policies so that there will be ease of doing business, and we set up the market, and we're very dynamic right now in the Philippines as far as energy policies are concerned. So that's how we de-risk it. They spend for it, we set up the market, and eventually they will earn from it. This is how it works in the Philippines. We are transparent, and we are dynamic in terms of policies and allowing foreign investors or even domestic investors to get into the renewable energy business. But the risk is there. It's their risk. But if the returns are good, it's their returns also. So as long as there is a proper coordination or understanding between the government and the private, I think both interests would be achieved. Government achieves their targets in renewable energy while the investors reach their targets on profitability of their company.
Thank you very much. Excellency Olama, I would like to turn to you on the interface between energy transition, regional interconnectivity, and energy security. Energy security has always been high on the agenda, lately more perhaps. But how do you see from UAE angle the balancing the energy security concerns with the ambitions that countries have like UAE for energy transition, but also regional interconnectivity as a means to support it?
For this kind of balance in the UAE, we do have a good experience. If you look at it from a in-country perspective, the UAE consists of 7 Emirates, and there is interconnection between the 7 Emirates. Also, when we go in the region, we are part of the GCC interconnecting grid. And we have seen a vast amount of benefits from this kind of interconnection. I'll give you some examples. As we have, as GCC countries, have materialized up to $3 billion in terms of costs that have been saved, which would be additional generation capacity that has been avoided. We have seen improvement in stability of the interconnecting grid. We've seen enhancement in terms of the resilience that is available for us. There have been certain environmental like storms and incidents where the GCC grid supported all the countries that were being affected, and we saw that very beneficial. Of course, I think for us to have this kind of balance between energy security and the regulatory frameworks that would work with it and having an interconnection, you have to have certain key enablers. For me, these enablers would include that you have to have an interconnected, diversified supply chain of energy. And I talked to some of my counterparts today, it will not only be renewable energy. You will need a portion of natural gas or fossil fuel to run your generators, to have the inertia that you're looking for the stability of the system. You will need renewable energy. You will need waste to energy. You will need hydrogen, which is coming hopefully in the near future. The other aspect that also required is to have proper joint grid planning between the interconnecting countries. You also have to count on digitalized grid management to have proper interconnection and proper management. And finally, of course, I think on carbon accounting and certification, there has to be a baseline, a common baseline that is shared between the interconnecting countries.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lin Yang, let me turn to you. I would like to specifically ask you about regional cooperation, because as an intergovernmental organization, it is central role that ESCAP plays in the region. And what sort of mechanisms ESCAP implements, uses, to be able to address those challenges, both on the energy security side, but on the energy transition, and also, I think in the previous panel we had together, you also highlighted the socioeconomic dimension of energy transition. I think what sort of mechanisms of cooperation you are pursuing to support all these different objectives?
Thank you for this very important question. I'm so glad you asked this. We do have mechanisms and the frameworks in place. When I come to the CEO this time, and yesterday we're also in the same panel, right? I shared that very, very key and important for our region to understand the energy transition is to understand the development paradigm shift. I mentioned about the productivity challenge for the region, slowing down the acceleration. And I mentioned about the supply chain issue. Many countries are facing how to, upgrade to the higher end. And also early this year, by supporting Philippines, we organized this middle income country conference in Philippines. Energy transition is also one of the issue on the agenda. So in this context, and when we do analysis, the conclusion or the findings we draw is that there are two keywords probably we need to pay more attention to. One is resilience, because the region, I think if we look at our history, look back, no matter from the post-World War, and or the 1997 financial crisis, and also the 2008 global financial crisis, the reason, even the pandemic, right? The reason we can rise, we can recover, and even recover strong from those adversity is the resilience. Our economy continues to show that. But why we have this resilience, I shared that is because long-term vision of this region. Strategic investment, make sure the investment go to the strategic sector that can unleash the largest potential. The third one, I think we should, as you said, that we should never lose sight to is this people-centered policies. That is why this region achieved so much in terms of poverty eradication. So come to the mechanisms or frameworks, we feel that the four strategic pillar will be very crucial for the next stage of this development paradigm shift, and also that should guide the energy transition itself. Number one, people-centered policies. And we talk a lot about technology. We talk a lot about this, the AI center and how to use the AI technologies into the energy system. But the energy affordability, accessibility, and equity should be at the heart of this energy transition. That is what we feel very important. Only when people feel that, each of the individual communities feel that they benefit from this transition, they will support. Number two is very crucial, and is the forward planning. This is, I think we need to work with our member states and many different state partners with the specialized expertise in the context of the digitalization and AI. The technology is advancing so rapidly. And so the energy transition policies, and when talking about the planning, should be able to forecast this shift. For example, whether the data center establishment should follow where the energy can be generated, how that ecosystem can be created, and even in the design of the whole waste management, this kind of forward planning need to be, promoted. The third one, as you said, the regional integration. Regional integration, we already discussed a regulatory convergency, infrastructure planning, and cross-border, right, standards harmonization. But look at the region, and as Minister Sharif also mentioned, there are two, if we break down, which we see quite important. First is the pathfinders, because when the incentives are not sufficient enough, we need some pathfinders to showcase that the incentives, the experiences, what they learn from, like a small policy sandbox. And Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, I think they are doing that. That gives us some sense and what they can benefit from this, connectivity, projects. Second one is market. The market size and the markets and the regulations and the market readiness. So those two are very, very crucial for the next stage of regional integration. Last but not least, when I spoke in particular this morning, I feel kind of it's very mind-blowing because I was told that, okay, regulatory and the policy framework and versus financing, they are like a chicken, egg and chicken, right? So when the policies are ready and the investors are ready, would like to jump in. This is, I would say I partially agree, but I partially disagree. I feel that we should have the determination to advance both. From a regional cooperation perspective, we do need to work with the partners, including MDBs, including the governments, to figure out how really we can break down the cost of capital. I shared yesterday, even 1% will mean a lot. So how to bring this 1% down is a question we need to figure out. I don't have an answer yet. I look to many governments and MDBs, maybe present in the room, to work together. So I will stop here. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank all our panelists for the great insights they have provided. We have unfortunately exhausted our time. And I would like to invite you to give a big applause to our panelists.
Thank you once again to our distinguished speakers for that very insightful discussion. Thank you very, very much.